The stages of Guilty Gear sure are beautiful, but what's up fellas, my name's Patriot Panda, and today's video we're going to be exploring the stages, so if you guys like this, be sure to like and sub. Get started, we're going to look at Kai's stage, Illyria, the actual castle, and to look at the detail, they do some amazing job with the lightings here, kind of using the angles to show the player specific lightings that they want to see. Everything looks, with the way the branches are connected to the statues, it looks beautiful. And look at the way the water is actually connected, you'll see it does go to a pool. Very low textured, but it's still a cool idea that they're paying attention to these details even when the player can't see it. From this angle, the lighting is just beautiful. Also, check out this lantern here. These lanterns are shaped just like Happy Chaos's little things. And if you go to the garden on the right here, you'll see a bunch of flowers like orchids in that. And again, from every angle, this game is beautiful. And this is what's going on behind the player. You can actually see the castle and all of the mountaintops and the tippy top of Illyria. In the next wall break section, you can actually see a nice design on the back of the statues. It has some slight butterfly patterns all over the place. I think this is to represent Dizzy's wings, which would make a lot of sense in terms of the story and of course Kai's love. This is what the normal vision is for this part of the stage, but looking behind the player, there's actually some civilians that were walking up to this area. Kind of makes you wonder what was going on here in terms of being an attraction. It's very interesting as well because obviously they're 2D sprites, not 3D models, you know, usually how the characters are in Guilty Gear. And like this man in the background, also 3D modeled, will shuffle about and looks good from any angle. And look at the flowers as well, nice attention to detail all over this map. There's also this cutout on the floor to which the players are fighting upon. You don't really see this because of the obvious detail of the different angle, but looking down on it you can see a proper symbol. The most interesting feature about it is that it looks 3D, but it's actually a 2D texture with grass foliage to sell the feeling of 3D cut grass, and from the usual angle, this really sells. In the next area where you break the wall, there's this puddle in the floor to sell the reflection behind you. The most interesting thing is that it is actually a reflection, but it's on a texture mesh, kind of having a cool graphic sell of what's going on. And if you look down, you'll see it's a plane that they've done to make sure it's thorough in terms of where the player would be seeing it. Illyria's castle is a very beautiful stage and, dare I say, underrated. Lars Canyon, the main stage that Guilty Gear is associated with, and I'd say the poster stage of the game. Lars Canyon has this nice waterfall right in front of the player to look at, and they do a couple of neat tricks with the texture to sell lighting going through it. First, the water texture on the floor, very low in terms of quality, but again the player won't see this, but even this having some texture to it is again impressive. And there's even a water source here that leads to nothing to sell even if the player could see it. Now in the sky there is no sun whatsoever. The way they do the lighting is a really bright skybox in different parts depending where the players are. The first thing that had me interested immediately was the skeleton. I could tell things beyond the skeleton was a skybox, but the skeleton itself looked like it could be 3D, and that was simply because of the object in its chest. So I decided to travel there using my camera mod, and I went at maximum speed. So this is generally as quick as I could go, showing how far the skeleton was. I mean, this was me at halfway, and look back when I look at the map, it is so far away. Look at this, we've confirmed that the skeleton is at least 3D on the lower half. We can see that the hand is 3D, and we're so damn far away, Christ almighty. There's its leg, no official leg, just a knee bone, and look at that, you can see his spine and everything. Looking at the sword, it does have some pretty solid detail to it, even for such a mesh that is so far away. The developers wanted to make sure that this was amazing to look at from any angle. And looking at the heart, it glows with a bright blue, showing all the veins, and it's very eerie looking. Yeah, and on the back of the sword, there's no detail on it whatsoever, just a clean mesh. The heart does spin, which I thought was odd, and in the veins as well. Ugh. Looking at the back of the skeleton, there's not really anything here besides the points, and looking here, I thought this was a skybox. These are actually all individual 3D models, planted and pasted. Insanely well done from the devs, and those skeletons over there could possibly be 3D, but I'm not tempting that, and let's head back all the way to the start. insanity how this looks. Post wall break, there's nothing that interesting besides this area here. The little bridge, the water as well. The waterfall looks amazing with the way it's styled, and in the bridge kind of makes you wish there was something like this to fight on, you know. And then here there's this ruins area that's very fun to look at. They do this cool dust effect here for the lighting by making a mesh go in a straight plane and just keep going down. Now, of course, the gem is placed next to a sun, but all it is a light ball that will change depending on the player's camera. What's in it? Ah, nothing. You kind of wish there was something funny in these things. But yeah, that is it for Lars Canyon. Not a ton going on, but the most of the detail definitely goes into its background. Here we are, Seven Heavens District, the chip stage, and wow, that statue is impressive. And all the statues are actually 3D with moving components at the bottom. Pretty cool to see. And then looking here, this is where the players are actually fighting in the first part of the stage, fighting on this kind of like tower thing. But it does look pretty cool from this angle. And here, this is where the city is in the skybox, where you go down and take a look. And you see there's some mixture of meshes and tricks. So for example here, look at the lights. You'll see they don't sync up. These are all 3D models except the purple ones. There's also a pretty neat skybox. There also appears to be this area, which totally reminds me of a Mortal Kombat stage the way it's designed, and it's supposed to lead to some type of bathhouse or some type of spring, with this having this kanji up here. I don't know what it says, right? I try to find some translations, and you know, it's not easy to translate the language, but it does lead to a bridge. And the bridge does again lead to the hot spring, and it's very cool to see with this view, and the player will never see this view, and I find that's such a cool decision to make, that there's beauties genuinely off screen. And of course, another cool detail I noticed is that the chains are actually swinging. Yeah, and up here, this is where the players will be fighting on top of that, and you get to see the views above with these statues. Also has a neat skybox as well, so seeing that big statue in the distance and the skybox and all the watermills, it's very cool. Yeah, I would say the chip stage, Seven Heaven District, is a very fun looking stage. Potemkin stage, a very cool one indeed. Has a lot of the snow looks and has these guys that clearly work for Zep. Their designs are pretty cool, and I don't know what they're looking for, but they're seeing a lot of purple. And looking for their mask, there's nothing. Head empty, as they say, and heading up to this, the mech was definitely a big shining thing that I wanted to look at, but there was also some scavenger mechs to the left of me, where people were working and trying to collect stuff. But the big guy here has the big A on him, and I noticed these models tend to have the A with the same writing there and everything. And if you go on the thing, it will try to constantly move up and down, but when this character model is on screen, they don't move up and down. As soon as they're off, then they start to walk, and this is to sell the feel of the model moving with it. They even have the flag of Zep up top, and there's a lot of designs that are very similar to Potemkin on this thing, like the big spike in the head and the orange lights, so this must be a classic design for Zep. Here we go into the next area with the wall break, and you can see there's a lot going on. There's the flag with Zep, a little scatter, and here you go, you see a guy calling over to the other side. And over here there's a guy that's trying to take statistics, and you'll notice that there's just a bar chart and a lot of weird things. I agree with what he's writing though. This area here. Again, the player will never see this, but it's really modeled, and the other cool thing is that they have this big ship with all these different runways, and it reminds me of the X-Art stage where you see it in the background. They even have like little satellites to sense wherever it is to try to find. There could be scavenging, they try to find trees, I have no idea, but it's certainly a scavenge mission. In the next area, where it's a very woodsy woods, the trees are massive and very detailed. They even have snowmobiles out here, and it quite shocked me to see the speed arbor are actually highly detailed, very easy to read up close. And again, there's another big scavenger thing here with the big number 8 on it when I was looking at it. And I would say it's a very interesting thing, but they don't have it move a lot due to the fact that it's in a very restricted area. Feel if it moved, because as you can see, it clips through a lot of things. But check the wiring on that, a ton of great detail. Ah, the hunting ground, a very cool stage that's not really utilized a lot, but its greenery is truly beautiful. And when you look at the statue here, you see that it actually has 4 arms, one wielding a spear and the other 2 wielding books. And the mask reminds me of plague doctors, so pretty spooky looking. It even has a book as well, no texture sadly. And check out these little Aztec-like runes, it's very creative to look at. Now the big attraction was obviously the big guy in the center. Why does he glow and why does he look so freaky? Well, getting up close, you can see there's a lot of detail. For example, those are 3D models that are glowing, and there's a lot of hands coming out of his arm. A very spooky and eerie design indeed, and the way his chest is all deformed as well. Ugh. Cool thing about the eye holes, this actually shocked me. I thought it was just a texture lighting. It turns out they're actually 3D models bulging out, and that's how they're able to sell this feel that it's truly looking at you. It's very weird. Ah yes, down here is a nice little waterway, which the player will see after the third wall break, and there's a lot of butterflies and wildlife and cool water things. And it turns out the butterflies are actually 3D models. I thought they would be 2D, but moving around them, they're actually 3D. This is what the player will see from this angle, and wow, the place is beautiful. There's a ton of tall trees. And this is what the player model looks like if you look from above. The water actually tracks where the player goes, selling the immersion. Beautiful stage, the Avatar hunting ground. Very fun one to look at, and I recommend using. And now we're on to the Happy Family, which was a pretty interesting one as it involves Voss and his lore and how freaky deaky it is. A lot of the cool things here is that a lot of the rooms are 3D modeled, and there's multiple rooms, it isn't just the one. And looking here, you can see this texture that actually covers the entire screen, but only for when you look for these windows. And I think this guy may have made the mimic. There's another texture here that's pretty spooky because it's just this lady standing there with an umbrella. Yeah, you'll never see this, ever. And when zooming in, the face kind of looks like Kai Kisuke. I don't know what they're implying, but it's very eerie just to see this woman standing out there in the middle of nowhere. And looking at this, again, all the rooms are very detailed, even behind the player, and it's a pretty spooky skybox. After the wall break, you actually get to see these boxes are damaged beyond belief with wear and tear everywhere. It's a very interesting design to see, and of course these nutcrackers with the glowing eyes, very weird as they stare right at the players. Again, there's many nutcrackers out here, but there's one that's specifically staring at where the players would be, and you don't see that one. And yeah, very eerie, I would say. I wonder what the goal was with the nutcrackers, because clearly they're a clear design throughout the map. These chomping teeth when you get to the third wall break. And they even have a mechanism in the back to show they're working. Again, nice attention to detail. Player will never see that. And there's actually 3 more up ahead. Right here, you're looking at them. And then there's a spooky one staring at us yet again. Again, a very beautiful stage, Happy Family, but it's a very odd and peculiar one. Ah, yes, I absolutely love this stage. Reminds me of NE. Very fun and beautiful stage. And when the people are here waiting to wave to their loved ones, it turns out a lot of them are either 3D models or 2D. For example here, these are the most detailed ones. Some of them aren't too detailed as the player will never see them. But oddly enough, this one is. And again, same with her, very detailed but player will never see her. And these ones are 2D off to the side. And these children here are 3D and a little weird with the eyes. And this guy, my lord. Yeah, it's very peculiar how good or bad they can look. It's kinda odd because again, the player will never see them, and holy, this guy is derpy. And the artist here, very talented indeed. You can see what angle she's actually trying to paint. And these paintings here, there's Guy Fawkes, you know, the guy who tried to blow up Parliament. And on the left, there's another painting, and it's the same one that was in the Happy Family rooms. Now, this is the next part, obviously, when we get to the ship. It turns out characters here, the NPCs, are all 2D sprites, right? So we're going to call them paper people from here on out. And there's many of them, but their angles never change due to the camera. And the other cool thing about the stage, I would have to say, is the front of the ship. A very detailed statue of a man holding an ajatar. Could be Poseidon or could be Cliff in his prime. And again, there's a funny little section here with these two. The couple obviously point towards the fight. This guy's staring at purple and a little bit derped out. And you kind of wonder what funnies you could create with this. And looking away, man, you see that the ship actually does travel a good bit of distance away into the sea. You head into the third wall break where you'll see the bustling city with a lot of people walking. And the signs actually have words on them, like General WPS glasses. And looking here, you'll see there's some problems with the NPCs, and when they go off screen they walk for a wee while, and this is a cool trick that game developers do, where they hide them, make them walk, continue their loop, they only have the one animation, and then they make them disappear. Very nice underwater way, again reminding me of Venice, as it's very beautiful to go under. You can also tell the writing here. I can't really speak it, so I'm not going to, but you know, that's for you guys if you want to try to figure out. And again, a lot more signs and cool tricks to hide the NPCs away from the player. Now heading to the garden here, of course, the main thing was the florists. And there's a lot of beautiful flowers, but I think they use the same texture over and over again. And there's actually not a lot going on with it in this shop. Despite the detail, there's not a ton going on here. Yeah, a very beautiful looking stage. And to show this guy with the apple, the animation is a bit jank, but again, from the angle that we normally see him, you'll never see this. The Council of Three, the map that everybody knows because of tournament scenes. And it's very well played because of the fact that it runs very well on PC. And that's because there's not a ton of detail, but there's a lot of cool things about this stage. For example, the towers in the background, most of them are actually 3D models that you can go around with a tippy top point and a lot of good details around. Again, this stage really reminds me of Bloodborne. Now the main interest, are these things 3D like the skeletons? And yes, they actually are. Their models are completely 3D with a texture, and now you're kind of wondering at this point how much detail went into the 3D models, because it's actually pretty good looking. And getting up close and personal, they actually did design the heads. They actually gave it a top, proper textured, and modeled it out. The other thing as well is that the hands are extremely detailed, and these textures here are actually 2D textures with a warped view. That way they look good from no matter the angle the player will see them. You can tell from the back here that they have that little warped and a little curve to deceive the player. But yeah, I would say it's very cool to even have a mist to emanate from the bottom, and it's a very well designed map so far. By heading into the wall break, nothing interesting here besides the wall of churches. Look at this, the way it curves. And this is all a 3D model that spans quite a while. If I had to guess, that's like at least 1,000 meters of this. And then into the next wall break, there's these big cards with the 3D model sticking out. Very freaky as well. The way it just stands there, looms over the player. But if you actually go through the mist, and again, freaky hand, you go through the mist here, you will see a 3D model has been fully sculpted of these creatures. Yes, look at the back, look at the spikes. Very freaky, if I had to say so myself. And again, there's another one here, the second model, who stares away with a very bony hand, very bony design. And she appears to be a demoness, and when you go around to the backside, you'll see again that it's a fully modeled 3D model that the player will never see. The Council of Three is a very cool stage with a lot of fun designs, and I would say kind of goes underappreciated due to how much we see it in the tournament scene. The Jellyfish Pirates, a very fun stage indeed, and that is just due to the fact that there's an attraction around the stage rather than the stage itself, with these fun dolphins, jellyfish and fishes. And looking here, this is the front of the ship. You can see it's actually pretty decently detailed with the glass panes. And there's a little cat hanging by one of the doors. And here's April, May's best friend, and she is hanging onto this window. And this is just dangerous, right? I mean, look at the height, look at the drop. That is scary. Now, of course, here's the family, and it turns out the Jellyfish Pirates are on laundry day. On the same day, you happen to be fighting your opponent. So that's something to think about. And they do actually take up all the laundry to the grandmother of the family. she hangs it all up, and the pirates just go about their day doing laundry day. And of course, here's May's sisters up here, pointing away, playing a bit of navigation. And you can actually see there's a ton of detail to the 3D models that are kind of robotic, because they've done their best to actually make them look like sea life. These jellyfish are eerily well done. A very beautiful stage, with the attraction being on what's going on in the center, because let's be real, on the stages themselves, there's not a lot going on. Yes, this is the Giovanna map, as I like to call it, because I really associate Giovanna with this stage as it suits her vibe. And yeah, it's very cool. There's a lot of billboards, kind of try promote movies and products like the flying turtle or Sorawa Kobe Kama. Hope I said that right. And yeah, there's a lot of cool technology and magic being used to promote a lot of these things in their universe. Again, a lot of the people are paper people, so they're 2D sprites as they're waiting for a bus. And there's these cool statues off by the buildings in the center, probably a governmental building. And yeah, it's kind of got a lion feel to it. Yeah, you look at the center here again, more promotions, reminds you right of Manhattan with the big billboards. Heading into the cafe, this is a very beautiful part, and this man here is actually reading the lore of Illyria. And then there's the polar bear in the back, which is actually a fully 3D model, well done, and then they try to put textures on it to give it that neon blue vibe, and then they make it slowly disappear. And again, there's these books here talking about a bunch of things to do with Illyria, and the polar bear itself doesn't actually animate, just a well done 3D model. There's not even a menu in the background. But yeah, the cafe part is a very nice part of the stage, very aesthetically pleasing. But you can also see where the opponent would go through the wall. It takes you to this next part where it really sells the bridge life with these massive buildings, the constant rain, and the big lake areas. And again, I feel like the main attraction to the stage is the cat in the background. It has its own walk cycle and it's chill as hell. There's also a bunch of police cars and oil vans driving by as well. By far a very nice stage, and kind of like a nice Neo New York. Heading into the Lapakami, the first DLC stage that came with biking, and it's an absolute treat to look at, and I think it's one of the most beautiful and visually stunning maps in the game. And as you look here, there's the story of the Kitsune, hope I'm saying that right, of the fox who played hard, worked hard, and slept hard. And you can even see the Kitsune turning into these spirit guardians that are going about with their charms and that. And again, there's all three of them, they've got their tails and they're very well done as they travel along this bridge. And neat enough, on the bridge, there's a lot of detail, but underneath it, there are actually these little torii gates. And heading up top, this totally gives me like Grandpa Gohan vibes with his little area where he lived with Goku. And I quite like it, it's got even animating lanterns as they move. There's these massive buildings that have like a ton of detail to them. They've got like this bell-like structure that moves up and down, and that's the same type of building design that we just saw on top. And then when you go through the wall, there's this cool wee area where the Kitsune is going through the torii gates. Very fun to watch, and again, such beautiful sights on this stage. The Lapakami, I would have to say, is like a 10 out of 10. Welcome to America in the second White House. Very cool design map. The first thing to note is that you're actually fighting on the crane. And again, they have the statues here of Big Teddy, Big Thomas Jefferson, and George. Now, cool thing about the stage is that it's actually on a floating ship. So the entire time it's just a massive skybox with a big drop down. And again, a massive scale to this stage. And heading into the room where you see the speech, you've got Daryl there with the obvious people here. And then there's this guy who, yeah, no, I'm right. Like, the stage is breakable here. You can see it with the nice painting there, the Civil War. And you can even see where the stage is going to be broken. And check this out, the big monuments. And of course, there's these limos here after the wall break. You can go inside them, but there's nothing in it. There's also these fountains that look fantastic. And up above, you see the symbol. And once you break the wall again, you head into the next area where these waiters that are walking about with the bots, and you can see what happens when they go off screen and how they're T-posing to assert dominance. And again, there's also a bunch of paintings and the way everything's done. I think that's Bill Clinton up there. And the funny thing is how these little droids move about. When they get to this bit, they start doing this. And I think they might be slipping. Very cute little fellas. And here's the inauguration, the moment where everybody's doing the speech. And you can see that there's a lot of details here. For example, it's all paper people. And again, these signs says thanks for the president, showing Erica some love. And even one that says 75th President Vernon, please playable character. So maybe DLC down the line. And the interesting thing, Vernon's just half a body. And the interesting thing about Erica is that you can see a green outline on her, showing she was green screened to fit in here. But yeah, a very cool stage, and I associate this with the big man Go Loose. The next DLC stage, which I say is just a fun, whimsical stage, is the Fairy Forest. And check this out, like how the little guy comes in with his little vial, flies it in, and puts it in, and that is such a beautiful liquid animation. And check out how the little guy goes away getting hard to work, and the other ones are trying to count away, try to keep up with the potions that they're making. And the potions here are fairly decently detailed. And again, you can see some of them around the map just sort of chilling on these little huts that are adorable. And look at the little guy, man. What legs? And you get into the next one, you can see that there's a bunch of like cool wee huts. This one is getting down to business. Look at that walk, that's a tough man right there. And you can see a lot of the ongoings happening here. This little contraption creating the potions that they're making. And if I'm honest, looks a whole of a lot like a bong. You know, a bong when I see one, and these fellas are certainly cooking. And you head into the next area, you see the one who's actually making the ingredients. Yes, this big fella here. And I originally thought this model was based off Sora's because of the armbands and the way the muscles are done. And once you go up to his beard, you'll see that there's actually no texture underneath. But yeah, a very beautiful stage, and probably one of my favourites indeed. The next one, of course, this is my absolute favourite. I would consider it one of the most beautiful backdrops in the entire game, with funny little seagulls, bird up. But yeah, cool thing, it turns out she actually does have a face and expression while swinging, and this is her mother. And there's the father, sleeping away. And then check out these escalators, they're actually fully functional, by the looks of things. Now I wonder if that's 3D, and head into the next area. It's a very beautiful area, with the nice coral everywhere, and the cat's obviously relaxing and vibing. Very cool, it makes you wonder what life used to be like around these areas. Then you get into the next wall break, again another beautiful scenery with all the coral everywhere. You even see some of the fish life, and I was able to find out that yes, this is a 3D model with its own textures. Yeah, it's such a beautiful stage and one of my absolute favourites. This stage I can associate with Slayer and Christmas. It's got that type of vibe to it, especially with all the snow gear. You can see the busy city with all the shops, and again some of the paper people are only made to look at certain angles, so probably not the best. There is one that isn't a paper person, and that's this fella here, looking like Giuseppe from Pinocchio. And then you go into the next area for the wall break with these dark scented candles, very evil looking, and then the statue looking something like a Warframe or Destiny with the cool helmet. And there's even some wolves underneath. This one has no animation whatsoever, so he looks a little derpy. These two actually do have animations. They move and they breathe. And then over here you can actually see the train coming in, and it's a beautiful animation. And into the next area you've got the snowman here looking pretty funny, and this kid pretty chill. And there's a little bit of a dispute here about a ticket or a receipt, and they're trying to manage it. And the train itself is called the Great Dipper, certainly a big train carrying a lot of passengers, even as people walking about it for tickets. And you can even see a lumber attached to it, so definitely a cargo train. Also, you see the train go off screen. Or you can also see these snowmobiles from earlier. A very cool stage, very fun to look at, and the Aurora Borealis is beautiful. Now, this is the second last stage, and I absolutely love this one as it came with Unica. And it's supposed to get the feel of the UK. The best parts about it, like Scotland and Wales, where it has a ton of greenery, a ton of highlands and all that. And looking at it, I genuinely get nostalgic. This actually reminds me of going hill walking, because a lot of it looks less, besides all the broken down churches and nails everywhere. There's even a hole here that does look like it would lead to something, even as stairs, but nothing is there. Maybe a potential place that he wanted. And look at this church, fully destroyed, and ruins, if you will. And again, the landscape, the way the skybox looks, it just reminds me of home. And you even have these little lanterns here, again, reminding me of home. And a lot of broken down gears. Even people used to live here, as there's little hobbit holes in the walls. And that's very cool, as you see railways as well. It's a very peculiar stage with a ton of detail, a lot of walkways. Then you break the wall again, and you see these floating bits of rubble, and you're kind of curious as to what happened in this area. The little flowers here reminding me of good old home. And again, the house side just looks absolutely stunning. By far one of my new favourites when it comes to the stages, and I want to see a lot more of this. The last stage we're covering, and this is actually the city of Illyria. And as you can see, it's a very bustling city, very busy with a ton of people who try to get on with their day, and a lot of neat details with their colouring. You look anywhere, there's a ton of colouring and a ton of culture in the western side. This wee bit here has the three characters from the Exiled story jump down some stairs, showing how far they can go, with the little frog guy jumping all the way down with one hop. Hopefully he'll be an added character, as he's a little goober. And again, this is how busy the city looks, and a lot of it is paper people, you know, and it does make sense considering how far away it is. Yeah, you can even see there's all types of different people here. And then you head into the next area where it appears that they're trying to fix the ruins. There's even all sorts of races here, like the fairies, the frog-like people, trying to work their way, trying to build up at the scaffolding. And it even has Paradigm here, looking at schematics, but after looking carefully at his book, it's just scribbles. There's even some frog people at work, and then there's this guy in the April Fool's video, a part of the story mode, trying to jump a solid bad guy, working away. And then there's this guy up here. Look at the balance of this, man. And then there's this cool church with some beautiful stained glass, and he even has some nice little magic to it. In the next wall break area, you'll see a nice little couple sitting there reading their book, going on about their day, and it's very adorable. Absolute goals in the future. And then there's this cool little fountain, which has a very unique design. And then over here, there's this deer guy trying to sell flowers to a very happy and eager customer, being this child. And definitely a deer guy, has the little legs and everything and the horns, and he has a little companion, which did jump scare me at first as he turned to the camera, but he does sell flowers and he uses the cargo on the back to move them about. And then there's this guy over here, relaxing, chillaxing, taking in the sun and enjoying a nice day. Now, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Be sure to like and subscribe as I went through all the stages, and I'll see you guys another time.